All right, Kendra, thanks so much. Only on Fox, an Upstate grandmother died from COVID-19. And tonight, her granddaughter wants to get a message out there about their family's experience, one probably a lot of families have had. Her granddaughter is concerned about communication coming from a Spartanburg County nursing home. While she says the home is not to blame for her grandmother's death, she does say better communication could have made a difference in her grandmother's final days.
Fox Carolina's Shale Remien's been looking into this story for months. So Shale, what happened here?
Well, Tori Deheck says that 10 people who lived here at Valley Falls Terrace in Spartanburg County died of COVID-19. Christian Atkins' grandmother was one of those people, and she says the way her grandmother's case was handled was nothing short of a nightmare. Now she's waving the red flag, asking for more communication.
Christian Atkins' grandmother passed away in August. Now reflecting back on the months prior, she says it's revealing a story she wants to tell.
She was there almost 3 years, so obviously she accumulated some things. And when we shook out her decorative wreath, there was cockroaches in them. That is disgusting. I was so angry and so upset because I had to sit here and wonder, what has happened to her that I don't know about?
When the pandemic hit the U.S., South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster passed an executive order restricting nursing home visitors. It was in that 6 months that Christian says she saw her grandmother's nursing home, Valley Falls Terrace in Spartanburg County, take a turn.
But the longer that the pandemic went on, the less the phone calls became.
5 weeks before her grandmother, Patricia Galloway, died, Christian got a phone call saying her grandmother had pneumonia and at the time had tested negative for COVID-19.
They did a random testing and she was negative and everything was fine. So why were you moving her across the building and creating a COVID wing? I didn't understand.
Christian says the facility turned her grandmother's original hall into a COVID wing, forcing Galloway to move to a different one. The creation of the COVID wing had Christian wondering exactly how many cases of COVID were they facing. Christian says no answers were given.
The little information I was given was all that I was being given.
She says she felt even more in the dark a week later when the nursing home left word her grandmother was taken to the hospital by ambulance.
They said, well, we can't really tell you anything. All we can tell you is she finished her antibiotics.
When we first began investigating this story back in September, we contacted Valley Falls Terrace about the communication with Christian. We received this statement at the end of November saying, quote, Valley Falls Terrace understands the importance of communication, especially during times like these, and we make every effort to provide timely and transparent information to our residents and families. Please remember that we are bound by privacy laws and cannot disclose health information to a third party unless we have authorization to do so.
Why is that the only thing you can tell me? I'm her power of attorney. I'm her next of kin. Why can you not tell me what is going on?
The day after Valley Falls Terrace notified Christian her grandmother was in the hospital, Christian tried once more to find out which hospital.
And I'm like, can someone please tell me, where is my grandmother? What is going on? Something. They said, oh, well, we can't tell you anything. You need to call the hospital. And I'm like, which hospital?
Christian tells us her grandmother was inside of Spartanburg Regional's ICU for close to 24 hours before she tracked her down, and now with a COVID-19 test coming back positive.
The only time in 6 months that I got to FaceTime my grandmother was when she was in the hospital and she was dying, and a nurse, out of the kindness of her heart, used her personal cell phone to let me see and talk to my grandmother before I couldn't anymore.
Christian said goodbye to her grandmother on August 27th. The woman, she says, took care of everyone until she couldn't take care of herself.
She didn't have to spend her last 6 months on this earth secluded from her family completely.
Christian says it was after her grandmother's passing she learned of all the moments they could have had together.
So my grandmother sat in a room with no visitors for going on 5 months because no one told me we could come to the window and see her.
Instead, Christian left care packages. Inside were pictures of her son, but she wishes her grandmother could have seen her great-grandson over FaceTime.
We should have been able to FaceTime her like we kept being told we were going to be able to, but then they said, oh, well, we don't have Wi-Fi? What?
Valley Falls Terrace confirmed there has been an internet issue, saying, quote, "Unfortunately, we have been dealing with internet service issues, which has affected our ability to use FaceTime, but we hope to have service restored in the near future." Since March, DHEC's most recent numbers show 50 residents and 22 staff members testing positive. 10 patients have died at Valley Falls, including Patricia Galloway.
You have to talk to the families. You have to tell them, even if it's just something as simple as typing up a mass letter once a week saying, hey, this is where we are.
Christian says communication would not have prevented life or death, but would have at least gifted them moments they'll never get back.
She didn't have to pass away this way.
Christian says this story isn't about Galloway taking her last breath, but the one she didn't get to take with the people she loved, even from a distance.
She was a beautiful person on the inside, and she deserved so much better than what she got.
And DHEC tells me that they surveyed nursing homes from June until July to make sure they met the proper protocols. We should point out that we reached out to Valley Falls Terrace on numerous occasions for interviews, but instead they wanted to only give out those written statements you saw in that story there. And Christian says if you find yourself in a similar situation, keep pushing and ask those questions. And if you do have a concern about a quality of life issue in South Carolina nursing homes, there is something you can do. You can contact the state's Department on Aging at 1-800-868-9095. We do have that phone number and a link to their website in our As Seen On section inside of our own website and the Fox Carolina News app. For now, reporting live in Spartanburg County tonight, I'm Shale Remien, Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news.